All right, welcome everybody. So we are ProVisors talking to ProVisors about a couple key things. The main one being you should do more. If you're just guesting a little bit, you should guest more. If you're only visiting your own group, you should be visiting at least another one. If you're a member of no affinity groups, you should check them out. If you're a member of some, you could be more. I'm talking to some of the most prolific ProVisors. If you're in ProVisors, you've definitely heard their names. You've got Marc Hankin and Belle Walker. So without wasting your time with introductions, because you know who they are, I'll put links in the description to learn more. Let's go ahead and jump in. So first and foremost, what do we mean by doing more? Marc, you've got a hand exercise you do. I want to make sure everybody sees it.
I do. So look, you go to your home group every month. That's a minimum. If you don't go to your home group, you're missing out on an opportunity. And in the old days, you used to be able to guest up to 3 times a month. Now those limits are flexible. But let's say you go to 4 groups, each of them 3 times a month. That's 12 months. You've now met 80% of the people in ProVisors outside your home group. So you have quintupled your chance of getting a referral. People often say to me, and others, they say the regional directors, I think I'm in the wrong home group. I get 80% of my business outside. It's simple arithmetic. You've met 4 times as many people outside your group as in your group. And even if everyone in your group loves you, they're not going to have something for you every month or every year. But the other people you meet guesting will. You have to get out there.
You do.
And by the way, if you're getting 100% from your home group, it's not that you get 100% of your referrals from your home group. It's that you get 20% of your referrals from your home group and you're ignoring the other 80%. You're turning them down, letting someone else get them.
Beautifully put. And we'll talk a little bit more about how important it is to simply be there, because sometimes there are specializations that we're not even aware of that they're missing out on. Belle, you're an amazing example. I mean, you have guested all over. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about how guesting, how doing more has really impacted you and your business?
Yeah, for me, I've really focused in on the affinity groups, which has been a tremendous opportunity for me, because when I walk in the door or join the Zoom, I know from the first moment that meeting starts that I have some connection with everybody else there. And so no matter what their profession is, what their background is, we're there because that affinity pulled us together. And that's been a fabulous way to start building all those connections that makes ProVisors so powerful.
Yeah. Can you rattle some off? What are some affinity groups if people aren't familiar? What do you recommend?
Ooh, I love the Boston Management Coaches and Consultants. That one's near and dear to my heart.
Fourth Wednesday.
Yes. Oh, this is a fun game. I like the LGBT+Allies group. That one's got great
Fourth
content.
Monday afternoon.
Ooh, what's another good one? Marc, what's your favorite affinity group?
Well, actually, believe it or not, it's the Bay Area Women's Affinity Group that I don't go to their regular meetings because I'm a man, but I do go to their Think Tank Thursday, which at 2 o'clock on Thursdays, West Coast time, is the best hour on Zoom. I'm a member of the Distributors and Manufacturers Group in Orange County. I've been on the executive committee a long time, but I guest at the Ontario Distributors and Manufacturers, the San Diego Distributors and Manufacturers, the Bay Area Distributors and Manufacturers. I go to a lot of the lawyers groups around. There are wonderful groups for women. There's groups for nonprofit. There's groups for all sorts of things. The Branding, Licensing, Intellectual Property Blip in LA on the 3rd Wednesday for lunch. And that's Harold Weitzberg, who's a member of my Irvine 3 group. And Cindy Hazel, who runs the San Francisco version, which is, the name's changed from Babelist to BAMS. Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's the 4th Tuesday for lunch. And that's a great group for people who are branding, licensing, intellectual property, marketing, sales, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for any of the women who aren't guesting at the various women's affinity groups, they are fabulous communities. I would give a special shout out to the East Bay Women's Affinity Group. They alternate between having external speakers and then internal content. It's always a great way to spend a Friday.
So Belle, some women say, look, I'm liberated, I'm a feminist. I don't want to go to a single gender group. I want to play with the big boys. What do you say to people like that?
I say, why would you turn down an opportunity? Right, there are many affinity groups that are open to everyone, but the lawyers' affinity groups often are not open to everyone. And if you were a lawyer, would you turn down the lawyer affinity groups because I'm not invited to them? And so I would say the same thing applies to the women's affinity groups.
I agree.
You swear by the Boston affinity group, attorney affinity group, right, Marc?
The Boston Lawyers Group, if you're a lawyer and you're not going to Chris Murphy's Boston Lawyers Group, it meets on the first Friday. Yes, it's 4 a.m. California time, 7 a.m. East Coast time. But it's the biggest and best lawyers group in the country. Sorry to all my friends who run other ones. It's fantastic. Chris Murphy does an amazing job, and it's so many good people there. You know, since 2013, I've been working with the New England region. I make at least one cross-country referral every single week. And I got to tell you, if you're not guesting in other regions, you are leaving opportunities on the table. It may not be a referral for you, but they'll come to you to ask for a referral for someone else. And if they come to you often enough, one day they're going to need you.
That's well put. And when else can we visit a group in Boston the same day that we visit our own home group? I mean,
Exactly.
Mark, you've traveled a lot, but I don't think even you've pulled that off.
Well, I used to go in person to go. Now everyone can do it. I actually have had at least 2 days on Zoom where I was in 4 or 5 different regions around the country without leaving this terrible small office I'm confined to these days.
I would also say that's another moment to speak in favor of affinity groups, right? Another pitch for the affinity groups is that the New England affinity groups meet at 8:30 Pacific time. So if that 4 a.m. time slot is a little intimidating, think about the affinity groups in New England. They meet later than a home group in the Bay Area.
Well, and also, if you read my description for Irvine 3, I always say, come see how much fun a ProVisors meeting can be. But Tony Laurentano, who's a group leader of Boston 4, the only Boston lunchtime lunchtime home group, Boston 4 calls itself the Fun Group. And I have to tell you, Tony runs a fun meeting. You got to go guess. And again, it's 8:30 West Coast time. So it's much more palatable than the 4 a.m. But Tony runs a great group, the Boston 4, the Fun Group.
That's amazing. I mean, there are a couple of people. I mean, let's list some here. We can give them shout outs in the comments. I mean, Young, I think, visits.
Young John, he went to school in Boston, so he goes there a lot for guesting.
Who else visits like crazy besides you two?
Chris King, and he always did in person. Richard Clayman does in person, and I see Richard a lot, but he was really the person before all this that was closest to me in numbers. But now there's so many people are out guesting. Regina Lark, group leader of the LGBT+Allies Affinity Group, she's out guesting like a fiend. It's a lot of people out guesting. It's kind of good.
Well,
Belle, who else do you see regularly?
Yeah,
well, I'm trying to think who I see regularly. I hear about Sam Lee regularly and have
I've not seen Sam Lee in a meeting. I know he guests a lot, but I think he and I are going like this in different circles.
Which explains a lot because I see you all the time, Mark.
Right.
Amrit Dhaliwal.
Oh yeah, she's really picked up. She's a former group leader and she's a very involved member, very well connected.
And Elena Daly. I see her, Alana Daly. I see her all the time.
Yeah.
So I got to ask a question. We have people like this who are setting a tremendous example. They're visiting all the time. And I think a lot of people point to them and say, they're different than me. I can't make that time. So what do you two say to those that just say, I don't have the time to visit as much as they do?
You can't afford not to. If you're busy now, that's great. And if I've always been busy, that's great. When you finish with this work, are you certain there's work waiting for you there? Take the time to network now while you're busy because you got to keep that pipeline filled.
And if you're at the point where you're saying I'm not guesting because I'm too busy, that implies you do wish you were getting more business and that you want to guest. So I'm not buying it, right? If you're so busy with work that the only reason you're not guesting is because you're so busy, what you would really be telling me is I'm not guesting because I have no interest in more business.